Hello, welcome to week 11 of the Programming for an Engineer class. We now are to the point of switching to Python. I hope you all did well with the midterm in C++. And so now we go from the language that is a little low level and focus more on performance. That is good to use, but with moderation, to a higher level language, Python, that is actually designed for high productivity of the programmer. So an overview of what we are looking at in this class. So we're looking at how to install Python very briefly. We will continue to use Visual Studio, so that's not really any significant change. We start looking at the Python syntax at a basic level and some data types and some operation in Python. Generally, it's just starting to be familiar. Once you know languages like C++, moving on to Python is extremely easy. The syntax is very similar at a high level, very few important differences. And but then also the interpreted environment makes it so easy to also try things out and so on. So Python nowadays is kind of the most popular scripting language. In fact, I would say it's become really the most popular language, especially in data science. And the idea of scripting language is really that is a language that is interpreted, not compiled. And so it's really much easier to use the environment. It can be used basically just as a calculator for simple tests all the way to full-blown computing capability. And one aspect that is more really powerful is that can include easily lots of libraries. So anything that really require performance, you can go back and create a library in C++. So many libraries available, from linear algebra, machine learning, web frameworks. If we have time, we'll actually look at an example where I do some web scraping and creating some statistics and plots on, for example, on the recent COVID cases. And also it's nice to be able to do some of those things easily yourself instead of being stuck with whatever plots you might find on a newspaper. And then, as I said, C++ can be used within Python in moderation. So anytime you find a piece of code that is really important in terms of performance, that could be written in a small C library and then linked from Python. So this is a very simple comparison of two pieces of code that are effectively, functionally, I would say, identical. One is in C++ and one is in Python. And so here, after I've done some C++, you have the typical thing of including IO stream to enable the IO functionality. Then you build a simple function to print the hello world. And then to start your program, you define the function with name main. So again, C has this standard of defining where the code will start. And then here we read a number in input, and then we print hello world the number of times that of the input number. So very simple. There is a loop, reading something input, calling a function, and so on. So this is the equivalent of the function in Python, for example. So here, the void hello world, blah, blah, blah. So here Python doesn't force you to declare what the function will return. Basically, if there is a return statement, that will return whatever, and the interpreter will deal with the types, something that C++ would force you to do explicitly. This is the print statement, and this is the equivalent. Now, on one side, you see kind of the key of the syntax is kind of similar, but a little bit different. One aspect to notice that in Python, so here you have the def part, as this define the function, and then the indentation really describe where the body of the function is, while in C++ you have the open and close braces, so the indentation is really, it's only for visual aspect for humans, but not for the code to be correct. Again, early on, many people criticized Python because they thought that this could be a weakness when you move the file, different machines and time, the formatting may go away. It turns out actually is a real strength, because without a lot of enforcing, practically the code is more readable and it never really is a problem. So here then we have the reading the variable. So this is the equivalent of the cin function. This is input, and then convert the result into an integer. And then the for loop, again, similar thing. You have the describe the for, and so here is the variable case. Range is created the sequence 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of explaining step by step how to compute the indices, the variable case, it goes through a list of value in, and this is here a list, and this is just a utility function that creates a sequence of number from 0 to case count. And then the indentation again tells you what part of the code is inside the loop, so the equivalent of open and close braces. And then we just print the result. In this case, this is the formatting to do exactly the same. And then you call the hello world function. So this is kind of the, now you see how the code here is kind of more compact. It tends to be more legible, even for someone that is kind of a novice. Well, I mean, this function, for example, is super simple. Here you would have to know all kind of things, the column, because of the standard namespace, the smaller, a lot of things. So here in principle, you have to know also print and so on. Is much more intuitive. And so we can look at running code from Visual Studio. So here we have a project. Now this is a Python project. And so here you see that you define the function, and this is the main part of the code. So here in this project, I have 3 files. So since the Python does not start from the main function, you have to tell the project from which file you have to start. So if I go here and do set, let me see, sorry. So set as a startup file, this has become bold. And now the execution will start from that file. If I select this file, I make it into set the startup file, the execution will go there. So this is convenient, so I'm putting the free file for this particular class. So in this case, then I can do run the code. Now, since there is the input, so I can say type 10, and then 1, 2, 3, from 0 to 9, so 10 times, you call the function, and so on. So the output was also showing there. I'll go through this again later, but just to give a sense, I can put also a breaking point similar to C++. And so when I start, I can move forward. And so here I'm getting the request for the value. And so I can go and print case 0, hello world. Then it again jumps into the function, print again. So here you can see case 0, hello world, case 1, hello world again. And then I can just continue and let it go to the end. And this is also displayed here. Just this to give a sense of how easy to run things and so on, and how intuitive writing the code. Maybe actually let me make some modifications. For example, here I was using the simplified version of the print statement case and so on. So this is the one that I had. By the way, the pound symbol starts comments inside the Python code. And so here I would just run, continue, do type f3, hello world, and so on. And so here is printed in a better format. But for example, let's say that now I move hello world to the beginning here, so the indentation is gone. Let me remove the, and so if I run and I say 3, so I do case 0, 1, 2, and then just print at the end. You see now this print statement is not inside the loop anymore. But if I do again, tab again, goes the indentation. So you see the meaning of the code. If I do 3 now, it's alternating case 0, hello world, case 1, and so on. So it's important that the indentation, it's the intuitive way and works very well. And also Visual Studio lets you merge and expand the area, so it will tell you what's part of the code that way. And so you can see that the code gets reformatted